Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good afternoon, it's Friday afternoon and you are live with the Locker Room here on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live Radio. As I'm sure you know by now, I'm Graham Duthie, hoping to be joined very shortly by Michael McEwen when he can be bothered getting his bumming gear and getting on the show. But at the moment, I will be hosting. We are here until 7 o'clock. Get all your comments in on everything we're talking about this afternoon. It's a beautiful day here in Pennycook, thankfully. I probably should take this jumper off now because I'm roasting. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's looking forward to a good weekend of sporting action. We've got massive games in the Premier League. We've got Scotland's game against Italy on Sunday. Actually, maybe tomorrow, actually. I maybe should have checked that out before I came on here. So we've got a lot to look forward to this weekend. You can get all your comments in on the usual way. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we're also live on Twitter, so you can get all your comments in. Before we actually get on to the games at the weekend, though, earlier on this week, the Scotland squad was announced for our games against Spain and Cyprus. So Scotland take on Cyprus next Saturday, and then we play Spain the following Tuesday at Hampden, both games at Hampden. So the Scotland squad for those games is we've got three goalkeepers. So it's Xander Clark, Angus Gunn and Liam Kelly. Defence, it's Liam Cooper, Grant Hanley, Jack Hendry, Aaron Hickey, Nathan Patterson, Ryan Porteous, Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney. Midfield, it is Stuart Armstrong, Lewis Ferguson, Billy Gilmore, Ryan Jack, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean and Scott McTominay. And the forward areas for Scotland, it's Che Adams, Jacob Brown, Ryan Christie and Lyndon Dykes. So only really four forward players in there. Now, I did say on one of my comments a few days ago that I thought that maybe Kevin Nisbet and Lauren Shankland might be in there. They both miss out. Now, I understand why Steve Clark's done that, because obviously Shankland has missed the last few games for Hearts. So it's probably not a surprise that he's missed out. But we don't really have a lot of forward options in there, which is a bit of a surprise to me. And now I can add Mr. Michael McEwen to the stream. And here he is.
Hello. I'm very sorry I'm late. My taxi never arrived in time. So I don't know why, because I was just coming from the living room to the bedroom. So it's good to be here, Graham. Sorry I was a bit late.
That's all right.
So you were just talking about the Scotland team there. I heard you saying for next weekend. Any surprises in that team?
I think the only one is probably Angus Gunn, the goalkeeper, because he switched allegiances from England to Scotland. I think that's probably the only one. I was just saying there that we've only got four attacking players. We've only got Adams, Dykes, Brown and Christie. There's no Kevin Nisbet. There's no Lauren Shankland. But I think the reason that Steve Clark gave for about Shankland was the fact he's not been playing the last few weeks for Hearts, so I understand that. Hopefully he's fit tomorrow. But yeah, there's not a lot of forward players. The rest of that squad, I think, is pretty much what you expected, to be honest. The only one I think, actually looking at the list again, the only one I can see from that list that misses out that I thought might have been in there is Greg Taylor. But apart from that, it's pretty much the squad that I think most folk expected. Yep.
Well, obviously, Andrew Postecoglou was asked about that at his pre-match press conference. There was a lot of talk this week, Graham, that maybe there was a fallout between Scotland and Celtic and Steve Clark, and why they're not picking him. Apparently, he's fit and he's in the squad for tomorrow. So take out what you will from that.
I suppose the only thing is, though, it is very hard to break into that Scotland squad because you're up against Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson. It's very hard to kind of dislodge them. I mean, you can imagine that probably Tierney will be centre back, and I would imagine Robertson will be left back. So it's very difficult for anyone to break into that team. But I think the way that Greg Taylor's played this season, I probably would have expected him to be in there. But obviously, Steve Clark's got his reasons for not playing him.
Yeah, it's a kind of weird one when you look at it, Graham, because he's had quite a good season not quite a good season, but a brilliant season for Celtic this season.
He's been one of Celtic's probably most consistent players, I would say. I think he's been absolutely fantastic for Celtic. And I think I said last week, one of our colleagues, Reagan, was never a fan of Greg Taylor, but I think even he's managed to change Reagan's mind, which is hard to do. So yeah, I think he's done a very good job. But I suppose if you're a Celtic fan, maybe you're happy he's not been selected because it means that he's going to be fit for Celtic games. So I can see kind of both sides, but I am surprised that he's not in there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose like the rest of the squad kind of like picks itself.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think for me, having both games at home is a good thing, but we've got to beat Cyprus. You've got to get off to a good start. You know, we do have Norway as well in the group. And I think for me, I think it'll be between us and Norway for second place. I think Spain will win the group. But then my worry is Erling Haaland. He is a big, big worry for me. Obviously, he scored 5 goals in the Champions League on Wednesday night, so he's in fine form just now. But I think having Cyprus at home first, if we can get off to a good start there, even maybe take a point against Spain. If we get 4 points at the first 2 games, I'd be delighted with that. But Spain, I think, will win the group probably comfortably. And I think it's going to be us and Norway. I might regret saying that now, but I think it will be us and Norway.
Yeah, and of course, speaking about the Scotland games, we'll have 2 shows on Graham that Saturday night, the 25th, and the Tuesday night, or Tuesday night.
Tuesday night's Spain game, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be on from remember the test here, Graham, because I've not got it in front of me. Saturday from 5 till 7. Yeah, okay, my memory is getting better. And Tuesday from 10 o'clock.
Yep.
There you go, Graham. I passed the test.
Wow. One of my Dean Clark, who I know because he's on one of my Hearts group chats. He's a big Hearts fan. Clark, because his favourites in the Scotland squad. The boy Brown from Stoke is not very good. To be honest, I've not really seen a lot of Jacob Brown. Again, no. I am surprised. I'm surprised that he's in the squad because I've not seen a lot of him. But clearly, Steve Clark sees something in him. But I've always said this about Scotland. It's the fact that for me, we don't have a lot of quality going forward in the forward area. Now, I said I understand why Shanklin's not there. I kind of understand when Nisbet's not there. But it's a worry for me that, again, we don't have a lot of young Scottish strikers coming through because, again, you're relying on Lyndon Dykes and Che Adams. That's not enough. You're relying again on Ryan Christie in the forward area. It's not enough. Scotland have got to produce something in the forward area because we are sadly lacking. Darren Ross, Haaland against our centre-halves gives me the fear. I completely agree. I really agree. I think Erling Haaland has been phenomenal for Man City. I think he's got about 30 goals already this season. 5 goals on Wednesday. He's a prospect. Whoever he's up against, I mean, Haaland against Grant Hanley would worry me. Really, really worry me. Actually, Dean makes another good point here. Need to take a punt on Ryan Gauld. He's playing well over America. It's a good point. Again, I think you've got to look a bit further afield and see if there's somebody else out there that you can bring in. To be honest, if he was fit, and I know that he took a head knock on I think it was maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. There's a young lad that plays for Liverpool, was at Celtic Youth, Ben Doak. He's an exceptional talent. He's an exceptional talent. Now, I don't know if he's one of these guys who can make a step up, but he's quick. He loves to take the ball. He can beat people. I think Ben Doak is one that could potentially be in that next Scotland squad if he can obviously keep fit. But it's that forward area for me. Obviously, since League Griffiths, we've had nothing else really. There's nobody else really coming through. And I think when we play again, when these games are over, I'm hoping that the next squad, you probably will see Shankland and probably Nisbet in the squad as well. Because relying on Che Adams and Lyndon Dykes, you can't rely on them every time. You need something a bit different.
You mentioned a good point there, Graham, and about Ben Doak. Obviously, he broke through at Celtic, and they played a few games for Celtic, and it was going to be a kind of prospect. I'm not saying that it would be in the squad every week, but that kind of brings me back to the subject that we've been speaking about regular on the show about. Did you see? Was he convinced about going down to Liverpool, and also was he convinced because of more money? You know how money talks a lot in football. So do you think that kind of sold it to him?
I think the word Liverpool probably sold it to him. I mean, you're going to be training with the best. I mean, I think he has been as well. he's been in and around the first team, and you're training with guys like Salah, Van Dijk, Thiago. You're training with absolute quality. You're gonna want to take that chance, and obviously he believes in himself. I've seen a few of the reserve games he's played in, and he's been a standout every time I've seen him. He's just such a good, intelligent player for his age. Whenever he gets the ball, he just takes people on. He's quick, and I think as well you find with young players they've got no fear, and I quite like that about him. He's fearless, and I love that about him. I think for me, a few years ago, Hearts had players like that were kind of fearless a little bit, but they went off the boil a bit. I mean, I go back to when Hearts beat Celtic 4-0 to break Brendan Rodgers' spell of 69 games, if you like. We had a young lad called Harry Cochrane, who I thought at the time was going to be brilliant. He scored in that game. He really dominated Scott Brennan, and I thought this boy's going to be something special. And then he disappeared off the face of the planet, and now he's playing in, I think, League One for Queen of the Side, potentially, or maybe Dunfermline. So, you've got to give these young lads a chance to thrive. And I think Ben Doak's doing that. And if he can keep doing what he's doing and keep progressing the way he is, I don't think it'll be long before he actually gets in that Scotland squad. Because for me, he's probably better than what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's the Scotland games coming up next week. And we Sakigate and Tuesday next week. We'll speak about the game after the game. That doesn't make sense, but I don't make sense anyway. That's why I was late to the party, Graham. Okay, let's come back to this weekend's action now, and we're going to speak about League Construction in a wee bit as well, and that's going to be quite interesting as well because people's got their own views about it. I know I have, and Graham certainly has it as well. Put your comments on the YouTube about the Dean and Darren has done, and we'll read them out. And also, you can join us on Facebook Live as well, and you can tweet us at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. Okay, so that is the Scotland squad, and let's move now to the Championship, Grim. A small matter of a game tonight. I'm looking forward to this one, actually, as I always look forward to every Friday night on the Championship. Arbroath against Morton, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dougie Imley's team, actually, because I've been quite impressed with him the last couple of weeks by watching them.
Yeah, he's done a decent job so far. This is a big game because if Morton win, they go third, and it's a big game for Arbroath as well because if they win, then they come off the foot of the table. So it's a massive game for both teams, and Arbroath have a bit of a hoodoo over Morton because Morton haven't beaten Arbroath since January 2020. So they've had 11 games and they've not beaten them yet. And already this season, Arbroath have taken 7 points from 9 from Morton. So they're a bit of a bogey team for Morton Arbroath. So this is a big, big game. And again, it's been a bit of a struggle for Dick Campbell this season. We all talked about how good a job he did last season. And I thought that he could maybe get in the Premiership. And then this season, it's just been an absolute disaster. And yeah, this is a massive, massive game. Now, I know the last Friday night game that they played against Hamilton, I said it wouldn't be a classic, and I was right. I'm hoping this one won't be the same. And I think it will be a decent game because I think there's so much at stake here. As I said, Morton, what a chance they've got. They're on 42 points, a chance to go third in the league and really stake a claim for that potential playoff place. So it's a huge, huge game. But do you know what? I just have a feeling who does there to be broken. I think Morton, the fact they're at home, might just sneak it tonight, but it'll be a difficult game. I think Arbroath, they are trying, but there's just a lot of things not coming off for them. And I would hate to see Dick Campbell getting relegated because I know folk think, he's not that big of a character. I think he is. I like Dick Campbell. I think he's a really good guy. He's passionate, and that's what I like to see about managers that are passionate, and I think he is. So, yeah, it's a big, big game tonight, but I just have that sneaky feeling that this record might be broken tonight and Morton might just sneak this.
I don't know about you, Graham, but I don't know if I'm looking forward to the game or seeing Dick Campbell getting interviewed twice before the game and after the game, and maybe a wee swear word or two as well. You always guarantee that with Dick Campbell. But I've been quite impressed with kind of Morton this season, and I think, as you said, they're in fifth place. But I mean, am I right in thinking that they can still make the playoffs as well?
Yeah, of course they can. They're only just try to look at that. They're only 4 points off Dundee, who are sitting second. They've got a massive opportunity, and I mean, I think at the moment, Queen's Park are on 51, Dundee are on 46. It's still very tight up there. I still fancy Queen's Park to come up. You know, they've got a game tomorrow. They're at home to Inverness, which is a huge game as well. There's a couple of big games tomorrow, actually, because Partick play Dundee, and that's second against third. So there's some big games in the Championship this weekend that could go a long way to deciding who's going to come up. So, yeah, I think Morton, for me, it's a big, big game for them. They'll have a decent crowd, I think, tonight as well. Being at home on a Friday night. I know it's on TV, but it should have a good crowd tonight. And it's a massive game. And I think, yeah, Dougie Emery's done a good job. Another one that when he came in, I wasn't sure how he would do. But to be fair, he steadied the ship and he has done a very good job. They got beat by Ayr a couple of weeks ago. But again, Ayr are quite up and down. They can look really good one week and then really poor the next week. I watched them on Monday night against Falkirk. And for spells in that game, I thought they were a better side. And I actually felt sorry for them because they missed a penalty that would have put them 2-1 up. And then 2 minutes later, they lose 2-1. So it's disappointing, but I think Ayr have had a good season as well. So that's why I've always said the Championship's a great league. It's so competitive, far more than the Premier League, but that's no hard. But it's a huge, huge game tonight. It really is.
So if you were a Morton fan, Graham, who would you want to win tomorrow, Packet, Thistle or Dundee?
I think you're hoping for a draw, to be honest. I don't think if anyone wins, it's going to help you. I think a draw would be ideal for them, but they have to win today. That's all they can do is concentrate on their own game and try and win tonight. And if they do that, they've got a fantastic opportunity. I'm just trying to look at their fixtures. There can't be that many games to go, actually.
Well, there's 9 left in the Premiership, so I would think there's about 8 or 7 left in the Championship.
So Morton, after this, play Inverness at home. They've then got Ayr away, Hamilton at home, Dundee away, Raith at home, Queen's Park at home, and Cove away. Difficult games, and probably for me, the games against potentially, I think Queen's Park and Dundee could be huge, but they can only win the games that they've got. They have to try and win these games. Darren says, what's your thoughts on the Ayr striker and where he will end up? Dipo Akinyemi, I put on Twitter on Monday, I'm a massive fan of him. I think he's far too good for the Championship. I've said this as well. I was on another podcast on Sunday night with a new United fan talking about Akinyemi. And I did say that Akinyemi is far too good for that league. He's by easily the best player in the Championship. And I think, and again, I don't know if Dean's still watching this, but for me, I think Hearts should go for him in the summer. Because I think for me, he would easily, obviously not Celtic and Rangers, but I think he would get into Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, Motherwell, St Mirren. I just think he's a brilliant player. His link-up play, his strength, he's actually quick as well. You look at some of these guys that are like big guys, they're not massively quick, but he's a very, very quick player. And he brings folk into the game. That goal on Monday, you know, his control was brilliant, his turn, and his finish lone at the corner was outstanding. I think he's a brilliant striker. And he's been probably for me one of the reasons why Ayr are sitting where they are in fourth. I think he's far too good for Ayr. And if Robin Nielsen was to go for him in the summer, I'd be happy with that. I think he would give us a different option.
Let's speak about the Ayr United actually. Ayr United Hamilton against Ayr United tomorrow. Ayr United, we saw them on the TV a lot this season, and they played well against Falkirk on Monday night. I actually quite enjoyed that game. To be honest, it could have went either way, and that was a game that VR could have been involved in if it wasn't not involved in the Scottish Cup. But Graham, I wanted to ask about Hamilton because obviously we saw them wait a few times this season, and we saw them against your Hearts. And a couple of weeks ago in the Scottish Cup. They played well for about 20 minutes of the second half, but the goose went off the boil. If I was a Hamilton fan, I would be a bit concerned because it's like to perform in these spells, but because you're riding in 9th place in the division, you know, it's worrying times.
Yeah, and I forgot Darren Ross is in my WhatsApp group as well. I forgot about that. I've got that many folk in my WhatsApp group. I forget who's in it. But yeah, I mean, for the whole first half against Hamilton, Hearts were very much in control of that game. Should have won the game quite comfortably. But second half, it was quite clear that John Rankin got into his team at halftime and said, look, you need to press Hearts higher up the pitch. Get into Robert Snodgrass. Don't let him have time on the ball. And for spells in that second half, they did that. They didn't really create a lot. There was a couple of opportunities that Xander Clark held comfortably. Apart from that, they didn't really offer a lot. It was more that Hearts were very poor second half, but Hamilton did play well. And there has been spells in games that they've done all right. Now, they do have some decent players in there. You know, Dylan McGowan, who was an ex-Hearts player as well, brother of Ryan McGowan. They've got, I think they've got the boy Teehee up front as well, who's quite decent. They've got Dario Zanata, who again is a decent player. But they just, at the moment, I mean, they're sitting 9th. They are looking very much like they could be in trouble this season, along with Arbroath and Cove. I just think Hamilton at the moment, against Ayr United tomorrow, I'd really fancy Ayr to win that. I just think Ayr have got momentum. They've got Akinyemi, as I said before. Hamilton, I would worry for them. I do like John Rankin. I think he's a good coach. But I would fear that they probably will drop into League One, which is a shame. Because again, I don't actually think Hamilton's ground is that bad. It's a decent wee ground as well. I remember like years and years ago when I used to go to Hamilton's ground, I think it was, what was it called again?
Well,
that was it. Yeah. I used to go there quite a lot in the like 80s, 90s, or a nice wee ground. Obviously, now it's been redeveloped and it looks, I'm not been to the new ground yet, but it looks nice. And I don't actually mind the AstroTurf pitch. Dean's going to laugh at me here because I've slagged that off numerous times, the AstroTurf pitch, but I don't actually mind the AstroTurf pitch. It looks better. So yeah, I think Hamilton look like they could be in trouble. And tomorrow, I don't beat Ayr United. I think Ayr are a little bit too strong. As I said, with Akinyemi up front, he's caused Hamilton loads of problems.
I think when you're talking about parks, Graham, I think I've been to Hamilton's Park twice when they were in the SPFL about 3 or 4 seasons ago. And I spoke about this last week as well, Graham. Falkirk is a no bag with Skigum as well, but the thing that Falkirk, Skigum, and Hamilton's got in common is they've not got the foresight covered, and I think like if they would do that, I know it's all about money and all that kind of thing, but it would make a decent atmosphere at these kind of grounds.
Yeah, and I think for the bigger games it does. You know, the Hearts game, there was a really good Hearts support there. Fantastic Hearts support, and it did make for a really good atmosphere. And I think, you know, if the likes of, I mean, Hamilton are probably going to go down, but I can't think who else in that league's got that could potentially come up's got a, I don't think anyone actually in that league apart from Hamilton's got that plastic pitch that could come up. So, yeah, I mean, I think I've said before that in the Premiership, in the Premier League, I'm not a massive fan of the plastic pitches. If you're going to have it in League One, whatever, League Two, then fine. But I'm just not a massive fan of them in the Premier League. But again, a lot of these clubs, they are good clubs. You know, they are decent-sized clubs, and they do get a decent home support for bigger games. I don't know what the crowd will be like tomorrow at Hamilton against Ayr United, but just looking at the game overall, and as I said earlier, that Partick Dundee game really stands out for me as like the pick of the games tomorrow. That could be a really good game because again, that potential is 2 Premier League sides playing each other. But they're just in that position just now that I don't think, if I'm a betting man right now, I'm saying that Queen's Park are coming up. And I think in the playoff, do you know what? I think Dundee might be in the playoff. I think Partick and Ayr might miss out. I think Dundee might just make it, but it is so tight. You know, you got Dundee on 46, Partick on 44, Ayr on 43, Morton on 42, Inverness on 36. They can't be ruled out. As I say, this is why I love the Championship, because it's so competitive. And I mean, Hearts have been in that Championship twice, and I hated being in there. I do not want to be in the Championship ever again, because as much as it's competitive, when you're a big club, you don't want to be in there. It's horrible. And that's why I said last week and the week before that I think United will go down, and I think Kilmarnock could potentially go down, and they could find it very hard to come back up because it's such a hard league to get out of.
I don't know if you saw the news, Graham. I think it came out yesterday, was it? No, it actually came out today. The potential final day of the Scottish Championship title decider between Queen's Park and Dundee will be on the TV, will be live on the BBC. What do you think of that news, Graham?
I think it's great. I really do think it's great. If that actually happens and it is that tight that it does get shown, I think it's brilliant. You know, that's a game I'd love to see, especially because of Queen's Park. You know, I've been kind of invested in their story this season, a bit like I was when Gretna came up through the leagues. I was invested in that as well. I know that a lot of folk have said, oh, you know, the way Gretna did it wasn't great. The way Queen's Park are doing it is right. So I've been invested in it, and I think it'll be fantastic if that is shown. And I think as well, if it is tight, if there's like maybe a couple of points in it, and it is a potential Championship decider, I think a lot of folk that maybe don't watch the Championship would probably tune in for that, because it would be a massive, massive game. And you get a great crowd of that as well. I think it's for once again, the SFA are doing the right thing. Who knew they would do something right?
Yeah, the leap year this year, I'm not actually sure. Let's run through the rest of the games. We touched upon tonight's Arbroath Morton game. Tomorrow, Hamilton Ayr, as we spoke about, Packet Thistle against Dundee, as we spoke about as well. Queen's Park against Inverness, and Grave Rose against Cove Rangers.
Yeah, I think Wraith against Cove. Disappointed with how Wraith have done this season. They were so good in the cup game against Motherwell, but did that maybe say more about how bad Motherwell were? I don't know. But Wraith have had a very poor season. Sitting seventh against Eights tomorrow, I would probably imagine Wraith would win that at home. Cove have not been great under Paul Hartley. And I love Paul Hartley. You know, he's an absolute Jambo's legend. I love him. But he's struggling at Cove. Very difficult time for him. So I do fancy Wraith to win that. I think for me, I'm going to make predictions, right? I'm going to say tonight, I'm going to go Morton 2, Arbroath 1. I'm going to go Hamilton 0, Ayr 2. I'm going to go Partick 1, Dundee 1. I'm going to go Queen's Park 2, Inverness 1. And I'm going to go Wraith 3, Cove 0.
Oh, by the way, just when you were talking about Raith Rovers and the Ascot football parks, Raith Rovers, I didn't know this actually until the other week when they were talking about it on the highlights, but I didn't know that Raith Rovers had an Ascot surface. And if you didn't know that, well, obviously you wouldn't know, but I would say that was one of the better surfaces, including that's one of the better surfaces.
Yeah, I knew Dean would say this. Dean, you love a 3G, Graham, because I've ripped 3G apart quite a few times. I know that Dean's a keen footballer. He's one of the, him and Darren actually are two very good guys in my group chat. So, yeah, it is a decent pitch. Again, I watched the Motherwell game, and it does look a very good pitch. When I was younger, when I used to play football, because I don't think I could run the left myself now, but when I used to play football, I just loved playing on grass. That was all I wanted to do, was play on grass. I didn't mind playing on AstroTurf at times. And actually at Pennycook, I played I think it was Hearts Legends game, probably 5-6 years ago now. And that was kind of on AstroTurf as well. I didn't mind it, but then I was trying to chase Jose Katongo, who's about 50 and smokes about 25 fags a day. And that was a hard shift, I'm telling you. But yeah, I mean, some plastic pitches are great, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not a massive fan of the Premier League. Darren Ross, Highland League is on course to have Bucky v Brecon on the list of this season, which could be a league decider, which I believe should be on Alba. Yeah, fair point again. Again, that could be a massive game, that as well. And Darren Ross, Championship is a big no-go for the coupon tomorrow. Yeah, probably fair point. But
yeah,
I mean, Bucky against Brecon, again, that could be a massive game as well. So it's actually great you're getting big games towards the end of the season. And we'll get to League Reconstruction shortly because you're not getting that in the Premier League because it's an absolute... I'll go to that shortly. I'll get my thoughts on that shortly.
Before we go into tomorrow's games, Graham, in the Premiership, this news just came out, 2 hours ago. I think you were on the button with this, Graham, because I didn't realise it. But before we speak about the Premiership game, Celtic and Rangers has agreed neither clubs will take out an away allocation for the next 2 Scottish Premiership games between each side. Of course, Rangers are due to visit Celtic Park on the 8th of April with their final league meeting of the season due to take place at Ibrox after the top flight splits in a few weeks' time. But I would imagine that would be the second game after the split because they usually do that. What's your thoughts on this, Graham? Because I saw a couple of people commenting about is this very, very petty of both sides, or do you think that's right? And also, I've also heard somebody saying, well, it's because of health and safety issues as well. So I know that you're a big Hearts fan and you would be more interested in Hearts and Hibs and all that. But what's your take on it? And if there's anybody watching in the chat, please comment as well, because it is a hot potato at the moment.
I love this. Honestly, this is what I love. I love the pettiness of it all. I think, see, when you cast your mind back to a couple of years ago when we had the COVID situation and no fans could go to games, it was horrendous. We then managed to get fans back and it was great. And I think for me, looking at it from a Hearts supporter, I think, especially for derby games, you need away fans there. You need away fans for the banter, the rivalry. It's a derby game. I think you need away fans. I genuinely do. And I think it is very petty of both teams. Listen, I can kind of get why they're doing it. It's kind of, that's what you get. That's a Glasgow thing, though. That's always going to happen. One team does that, the other team's got to do exactly the same thing to kind of have revenge. It is very petty. But I would hate for Hibs to do that to us and say there's no Hearts fans getting allowed in. It would be horrendous. I would not want that at all. But then I also kind of think that, I think that Colin Scotland, I wish Independence Live would stop all football chat and just focus on political things. You know what, Colin? If you don't like it, switch off, because other folk do. We've done this show for a long, long time. If you don't like it, switch off. I don't care. I think for me, there is a thing where I think even, not just for derby games, but you need away fans for any. You need that rivalry. You need that banter. I mean, if you're a football player and you're coming out and seeing your supporters aren't there, I don't know what that must be like. It must be horrendous. It really must be. So it is petty. And as I say, I would hate for Hibs to do it to us. I personally wouldn't want Hearts to do that to Hibs, because I think you need the rivalry. You need the fans there. So I think for me it's a bit petty, but listen, that's what you're going to get. It's the Celtic Rangers have done this for a long, long time. It's always going to happen.
See, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, Graham. Obviously, the quarterfinal has been and gone, and saw the Graham last week. But
you had to bring that up again, didn't you?
But I knew as soon as that draw took place, Celtic and Rangers were going to be drawn against each other at Ibrox or Parkhead, because I'll tell you why. If it's a cup game, a bit like Hearts, they would give Celtic the whole roast bun in behind the goal. But if that was at Ibrox and Parkhead, they would never do that, because then, then they would have to give one side that the fans ticket, like a 50-50 ticket split. The only way that could happen was obviously the semi-final at Hampden. But if you're going to Parkhead and Ibrox, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Dean, again, 100% need fans. Don't understand the health and safety issues. You need the fans. What I don't agree with,
Yeah.
and this happened at Tynecastle last week, where you had Celtic fans in the home end. That's got to stop. You can't have away fans in the home end. I don't know what possession folk to do that. And as well, what I don't get as well is, why would you make it so clear you're an away fan in a home end? Why would you do that? It's pointless for me. And Hearts have got to do something more to kind of stamp that out, because we had Celtic fans in the Hearts end last week, and you can't have that. But yeah, you do need away fans, and especially for a derby game, you need that rivalry, you need the banter between the fans. And as I mentioned there as well, if you're a player running out and you're not seeing your fans there, that must have an effect as well. You're like thinking, oh, we've no fans here. So I think it is very petty, but this has happened before with Celtic Rangers as well, is it not? I'm sure it's happened before as well. And I know that a long time ago as well, I'll come back to Hearts on this, because when I used to go to Ibrox, probably 90s, I would say, we used to get the whole bottom end of the Broomloan Road stand. But now all you get is a little section. It's the same at Parkhead as well. All you get is a little section. It's not great, and sometimes the view isn't great because you've got a big pillar in your way. So I think they need to get that a bit better. And again, and I know this, I'm going on a rant here as well, but the ticket prices for Inverness and Falkirk are ridiculous. For a semi-final, 30 odd quid for that game, and as well, 12:15 kickoff. Inverness fans having to travel all the way from Inverness for a cup semi-final. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't know. I'm hoping this won't happen, but I don't know what kind of crowd you're going to get. I would worry that it wouldn't even be more than 15,000 there for that game, and it's not a great look for Scottish football. Let's be honest.
I think it will be about 10,000 if you're lucky, Graham, and that, and I'm not slagging the teams off by any matter of means, but you could get easily took it to, our geography is not that good, Graham, but Aberdeen or whatever. I mean, especially because it's going to be on the TV, it's going to be on BBC and Viaplay, because both channels show one game, and then the next game would be Rangers and Celtic. That'll be on Viaplay on the Sunday. I think it's 1:30 that kickoff as well. I was just going to say to you about the away fans just for a minute before we move on, because obviously, I've got a few. I can go on my soapbox about that as well. But I know a few Celtic fans that went to Ibrox this season, and I suppose it would be the same when Rangers came to Parkhead. And when fans get tickets for the games, right, they get a letter from the club. From Celtic, but Rangers are basically saying, please advise all fans to be in the Skiggum by 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, the game's at 12 o'clock, right? So you're on the Skiggum a good 2 hours before the game, right? And if you turn up to the Skiggum 10 minutes or 15 minutes late, guess what, Graham? You're not getting in.
I know. I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but it's again, it's just another not great for Scottish football, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And then you're getting into these Skiggums and you're getting all sorts thrown at you, because at Ibrox you're sitting in the corner, so you've got the fans up above and the fans the left and right of you as well. And I had to laugh because and Celtic's the same, but I had to laugh at Ibrox last week. Rafe Rovers and Packet Thistle took more fans to Ibrox than the biggest rivals across the city. How bizarre is that? But anyway, so we'll go on to speak about the games now. That's enough talking off the park. Let's do it on the park, because we do that best. Well, you do anyway, Graham. I'm just here to make you look good, mate. So Motherwell and Rangers, that's a 12:30 kickoff tomorrow on Sky. What do you think of this game, Graham? Because obviously, it's the last game before the international break. They're 9 points behind at the moment. And Motherwell, Stuart Kettlewells went in there and I was going to say put the kettle on because he's actually turned him around. What do you think of this game?
I think this is a very tough game for Rangers. It could be a tough game anyway. Stuart Kettlewell's done a great job, unbeaten so far as Motherwell manager, which again, with the players that he had at his disposal, the same players that Stevie Hamill had, to do what he's done so far in a short space of time has been incredible. And it kind of, I don't know if it says more about Hamill, more about the players, that they're putting more of a shift in than they were before. They look a much better side now, a much better unit. They look like they know what they're doing. They've got a system they play to. Obviously, Van Veen is still a huge part of that. They've got John Obika now, who seems to love scoring against Hearts, but he can't play this every week. But yeah, this is a tough game, a really tough game for Motherwell and Rangers. I think Rangers at the moment, I think I said this last week, I'm still not convinced about Michael Beale. I think he's probably had a couple of decent games so far. They played well against Hearts. They played well against Hibs. I think they played well against Livingston, I think it was as well. But they've not been overly convincing. Even last week against Wraith Rovers, there were murmurs in the stadium at half-time. They were only 1-0 up. They weren't playing that well. They weren't playing. That's 2 games now against championship teams in the Cup that they've not actually played that well. So I think there has been a lot of... And obviously, if you look at the banners that the Rangers fans are putting out as well, all the talk about standards and stuff, I think it seems to me there's still a lot of Rangers fans are not convinced by Michael Beale. So he needs a good win and a good performance tomorrow. There's been also a lot of talk said about Morelos that I put in the tagline at the bottom there. Could Morelos be for the exit door? And it looks very much to me like he is, given Michael Beale's comments about him basically, because he had talked about Ryan Kent and Ryan Jack were going to be signing new contracts, but he never said that about Alfredo Morelos. So there seems to be a bit of a... I don't think Morelos will be there at the end of the season. I think he'll be gone. And he doesn't look, it's been said before, he doesn't look the fittest. He doesn't look interested. They've got players coming back now. John Suter came back last week. How long they keep him fit for, I don't know. But tomorrow's a big game because probably a few weeks ago would have said Rangers might win this comfortably, but now Mother will look a lot better. So I think this is a very difficult game.
It's very interesting you saying that about Morelos, Graham, because I watched the press conference with Michael Beale today, and that was one of the questions that they asked him. And the interesting thing for me was, it's like when you hear both sides of the story, surely you're going to find out who's going to tell the truth. But I'm not so sure, Glenn, because like he said in this press conference, and if you haven't watched it yet, go and watch it. Not now, late enough. Wait until we're finished the show. But he was saying that Morelos hasn't spoke to that team, and also Michael Beale said to him. Michael Beale says we'll speak at the end of the season. Now, I don't know about you, Glenn, but something doesn't add up here because like. Before last week's game, there was all talk about Morelos went to speak to that particular club about moving, and then Bale's basically came out and said, "No, I've spoke to Morelos and he hasn't spoke to any team whatsoever." Do you not think that a bit weird?
I mean, we're probably never going to know. Obviously, some of days. Morelos might be telling the truth, we don't know, but I mean, there's clearly something not quite right there. There's a dynamic that seems to be missing between manager and player. Morelos hasn't been playing recently. I think it's been Cholak that's been playing, and to be fair, Fashion Sakala has been Rangers' best player for the last few weeks. He's been outstanding. So I think there is a bit of a disconnect there between Morelos and the player and manager and board as well. He was quite happy to talk about the fact that he was getting new contracts sorted for Kent and Jack, but not Morelos. So Morelos has always been that kind of quandary, I think, for Rangers. At times he can be really good, but other times if he's in a huff, and you can tell when he's not interested, he's walking about the pitch, doesn't get involved, his movement is really poor. You've noticed that the last few weeks he's not really been at it. I know he's scoring in Celtic in the Cup, but even then he didn't have a great game. And he got taken off. And you're thinking, well, he scored. Why would you not keep him on? There's something obviously not quite right there behind the scenes as well. So whether he spoke to that team or not, we'll probably never find out. But there is something clearly missing with him.
Yeah, I think I don't know offhand, Glenn, but before that goal against Celtic in the cup final, I think that's been a while since he's actually scored for Rangers.
I think it is. He's just never looked fit, or he's never looked interested. I think there was
Nah,
a thing a while ago that he put in a bit of weight. He didn't look the fittest. Whether he still got that, I don't know. But he doesn't look that player that he was before.
I don't think he looks that interested, Graham, and I don't think he wants to be there.
No, it shows as well. It shows, and I think if you're a Rangers fan as well, if you're a Rangers fan, you're probably thinking, well, I do like Morelos, but see if you don't want to be here, then let him go. Because you don't want players in your team that are bad apples and don't want to be there. That's the last thing you want.
I prefer pairs, but anyway, Graham. So Michael Beale said, well, first of all, before he went on to speak about tomorrow's game, they were asking him about the semi-final. Michael Beale said, by the way, he done his press conference yesterday, so they never asked him about the ticket allocation, but I suppose that they will ask him about that tomorrow before the game on Sky. Michael Beale said the cup final, the cup final, the cup semi-final is a guaranteed 3 games against Celtic. We said them until the end of the season. That is good for us, and I'll make the squad stronger moving forward. Onto the game now. He says that tomorrow's game, we have a big game this weekend. Our away form is good, and we have a lot of clean sheets away from home, but it's been a mixed bag on performances. But Marwell is on a good run. Stewart has did well since he went in there, but we look forward to the game tomorrow. Now, just come back to what you were saying, Graham, and I've made this point for the past couple of weeks, and you've made it again tonight, and you'll probably say it before the end of the season. He said that, but it has been a mixed bag of performances. So he knows that they're not hitting the heights that they should.
Yeah, and you can see that in performances. I mean, I keep going back to these 2 games in the Cup, but you're playing 2 championship teams at home. What should be very easy games for Rangers, and they didn't play well in either of them. You know, even their 8th game, yes, they won the game 3-0 comfortable in the end, but they didn't play that well. They were very slow. They were very passive. They didn't have a lot of pace or tempo in their team. It was just very lethargic. The Rangers fans were getting bored, and you could tell that, to be honest, I was getting bored watching it as well. There's been a lot of games like that this season for Rangers where they haven't really played that well, whereas you look at Celtic on the other hand, Celtic play with pace, play with tempo, play with flair. You've got players in that attacking area that always want the ball. They're really decisive on the ball. Rangers don't have that. It's very slow build-up. It's the same as Hearts to Boris. It's very slow build-up. And you're looking probably for Ryan Kent to do something. You're looking for Sakala to do something. And to be fair, they have been better recently. I just talked about Sakala there. Sakala's been excellent so far. But yeah, they haven't been overly impressive. Now, that semi-final will take care of itself. But if you're a Rangers fan going into that game, that probably now is the biggest game of your season, because you want to stop Celtic doing a treble. That's the only chance you've got now, is to win that game. So I think if Rangers were to lose that game, maybe unfairly, but I think Michael Beale will be under massive pressure, because then Celtic will probably go in the treble. And that's not good for a Rangers manager. You've got to win that game.
He then went on to say, Graham, and this is very interesting. He says Rangers has identified some players to come in over the summer, and also he said that Malik Tillman is back available tomorrow, and you might see a couple of changes to the formation. Now, Graham, I don't know if any Rangers fans are watching this, but it's only my point of view. As I say, my point of view. If they don't win the Scottish Cup, do you think Michael Beale will still be there in that season?
I think he will be, but I think he would have a lot of work to do. I think I said this a few weeks ago. You probably can't judge Michael Beale till next season, when he's had another transfer window in the summer, where he's got starting from scratch, Celtic Rangers starting from scratch. then you can probably judge him more. I think this season, he came in at a difficult time. He kind of steadied the ship a little bit, but Rangers fans want more. They want to see more. Now, they weren't particularly great against Celtic in the semi-final. I thought Celtic won that more comfortably. They had a spell in that game when they scored that they were better. But I think, for me, they won the Scottish Cup last season against Hearts. Hearts were dreadful. Let's be honest, Hearts were really poor. But if they lose this and Celtic win the treble, it wouldn't look great. So I think that, I know there's more game. I know there's games to come before that game, but that becomes a massive, massive game. If Rangers win that, and then obviously win the cup, I think Rangers fans, some of them, might give Bill a bit more leeway. But I don't think you can judge him on this season yet.
His opponent tomorrow in the opposite dugout, Stuart Kettlewell, said last weekend was good. We had the weekend off and we got to work. We got some work into the boys and try and get one or two back for tomorrow's game. He says that he then went on to say, between now and the split, we want to continue to have a good run of form. It is going to be a very difficult game. Speaking about tomorrow, it's going to be a very difficult game, but we have to believe in ourselves. There's a few. And then he went on to speak about the team tomorrow. He said there is a 50-50 chance that one or two might be out. In a typical manner style, he says, I'm not going to tell you who's going to be fit tomorrow. So basically, you just have to find out tomorrow when you're watching the game or listening to the game. But I've actually been quite impressed by Stuart Kettlewell. Listening to him, Graham, I know he's been on TV, but obviously there's a slight difference being in a TV studio and being in a very cold dugout week in, week out. But I've been quite impressed listening to Stuart talking the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's a very passionate guy. He's very knowledgeable. You know, he did a decent job at Ross County, that kind of dual management job that he had. And he's done a very good job. Again, when he got the job permanently, it's one of these things I wasn't sure if that was the right appointment, if they needed somebody more experienced. He's done a great job. They're unbeaten so far. Tomorrow will be a massive, massive test for him. If he comes through that unbeaten, then it would be fantastic. It really would. And he's a likable guy as well. He comes across quite well, and he's put something in that Motherwell team that they never had before, and that's a bit of grit, a bit of steel. They look a lot more organised now than they did under Hamill and under Alexander. So they do look a much, much better side. This is going to be a massive, massive game for both teams, though. I think for me, if Motherwell can even sneak this, it would be a huge, huge result. But do you know what? I kind of think Rangers might just sneak this. I think it'll be tight, but I do think Motherwell might just sneak this. So let's move on to one of the other games tomorrow. And it's at Pittodrie, where Aberdeen take on my team Hearts. Aberdeen sitting 5th, Hearts sitting 3rd. Again, massive, massive game. Now, the worry for me is Hearts' away form has not been overly impressive. And we've not won at Pittodrie since 2016 when Abiola Dowda, remember him, Hearts fans, scored the winning goal. So our record at Pittodrie is not great. The last time we went to Pittodrie, we lost 2-0, although first half Hearts played well. Couldn't easily taken something. Alec Cochrane missed a sitter, Barry Mackay missed a sitter. Second half, Lawrence Shankly missed a great chance. We could have taken something out of that game, but unfortunately, our defence kind of let us down that day. Aberdeen are coming out of this in decent form. I think for me, the main danger man is Duke. He's the one that Hearts have got to keep quiet tomorrow. If we keep him quiet, we've got a chance. I look at Aberdeen's squad and I was thinking this the other day, is there any player in the Aberdeen squad that gets in that Hearts squad? Now, Duke, for me, is the only one that gets in that team. Genuinely, I think he's the only threat that I can see. Hearts have got to go there tomorrow and, for me, change the formation. I want to see us going 4-2-3-1 because I'm not a fan of 3 at the back. I think we get cut open far too often. Darren Ross, still gutted I've not got a ticket for tomorrow. Yeah, I've been to Pittodrie a few times and I don't know if I'd want to go tomorrow, to be honest. But yeah, it's a massive, massive game. More importantly for me now is the fact that we now know that if Celtic and Rangers win the Cup, which you've got to assume they will, then third place gets guaranteed group stage European football. We have to get third. We need to get third. Our away form's been very, very poor, but to this game, I want to go into the international break with a decent advantage. Now you've got Celtic play Hibs tomorrow. If we win against Aberdeen, we go 10 points ahead of Aberdeen and we go 8 ahead of Hibs. Massive opportunity, but the away form's got to change. We've not won away from home since the 28th of December against St Johnstone. This is a massive game for Hearts tomorrow against a rejuvenated Aberdeen side, but it's a game we need to win. And Michael's back.
Yeah. I'll leave you for 2 minutes, Graham, and you can't help yourself but speaking about Hearts. That's what I love
It was the next game on my list.
Yeah, well, funny enough, so, you must be rigging off my list as well, yeah. Do you think that Hearts will bounce back tomorrow against Aberdeen? As you said that. Well, first of all, do you think it's a bit unfair that the Aberdeen should really come out and say, Barry Robson, that's your job until the end of the season, because they're not going to get a new manager now, Graham?
Well, there's been a lot of talk on Twitter and stuff that they are getting somebody else in, but we don't know who. It probably would have been better if, I'm sure that Barry Robson behind closed doors has been told what his remit is. You know, maybe if he wins tomorrow, he gets the job full time. I don't know. But I'm sure he must have been told something, because you can't leave the guy high and dry. He's done a decent job so far. He's come in, again, I used that word, steady the ship. I think he has done. I don't think they were great against United in the first half, but they eventually winning the game 3-1. I mentioned there, Duke has been outstanding. He's a big threat, but I'm not sure if Robson will get the job. Whether they're looking at somebody else. I know that Neil Lennon was in the frame. Whether he would get the job, I don't know. Whether he wants it. But I think they do need to get, there's only, 10 games left. Would it be that bad if they gave Robson the job to the end of the season and then make an appointment next season? But they need to let him know one way or the other what's happening. I'm sure they are doing that behind closed doors.
Robbie Nielsen said today at his press conference that Rodney Shankland has claimed the last few days and hopefully he'll get through tomorrow. Robbie Nielsen must have gotten his press yesterday then. The Rodney Shankland claimed the last few days. Hopefully he'll get through tomorrow and be ready. Robert Snodgrass is the same. Lauren has claimed the last few days. Tomorrow I'm good reading. Alex Coughlin is the same, and Pika Harlan is in full training at the moment, and hopefully he will be back after the international break, Graham, because he's out tomorrow. On the game, Robbie was saying that the most important thing is the game on Saturday. It's not about focusing on where we go to after the international break. We must focus on one game at a time and win the game on Saturday, and it puts us in a brilliant position.
Yeah, I mean, I did put again on the tagline there, is Robbie Nielsen under pressure? Because it seems that, and I say this quite a lot, but every time we get beat, there is this talk on Twitter or my group chat about should Robbie Nielsen be sacked. Now, I don't think Robbie's under pressure. Not at the moment. But I have said as well that if we don't get third, then questions have got to be asked, because we've got a big enough squad. We have had injuries, yes, but we've got a decent enough squad. We are ahead of Aberdeen and Hibs. For us to collapse, that would be a disaster. I don't think Robbie's under pressure yet. But what I would say is there are times I think Robbie Nielsen does make mistakes. Now, that game against Celtic last week in the Cup was disappointing. It was what I expected, but the performance wasn't good enough. Now, yes, when Celtic are on form, they can beat anyone comfortably, and they did that last week, but we didn't play well enough. Certain players on that team, I think Robbie is too loyal to, i.e. Barry Mackay. If he doesn't play well, he's a man down. I've already said, I put on Twitter the other day, my team for tomorrow, and Barry Mackay's not in it, because I just don't think he turns up for big games. But this is a huge game, because, as I mentioned, we came back on air there, Michael, that Hearts haven't won at Pittodrie since 2000. And so the record there is very poor. The away form is not great. We've not won away from home in the league. We've not won away from home in the league since December when we reached Johnson 3. We won a couple of cup games against Hibs and Hamilton, but our away form has not been great. So it gives me a bit of fear for tomorrow, but we have to win this. Now that we know that if one of the old firm wins the cup, third place is guaranteed group stage football. We have to get third. There is no doubt about that. We've got to get third. I think for me, when you play against Celtic like last week, you need your big players. You need a fully fit squad. We've not got that. We've still got Craig Gordon out, Craig Halkett out, Benny Minigamy out, Liam Boyce out, Lawrence Shankland out, Stephen Humphreys out. We've got numerous injuries. I'm not making excuses, but having those amount of players out is a massive, massive blow. Celtic can afford to have 3 or 4 players out and doesn't make a difference. Hearts can't do that. Tomorrow is a huge must-win game for me. We win that game, as I said earlier on, we go 8 points ahead of the Hibs, assuming they get beat by Celtic tomorrow, and 10 ahead of Aberdeen. That is a big gap. Now, Aberdeen and Hibs will have to play Celtic and Rangers after the split, like we would. You would imagine they wouldn't win those games. We would have a massive opportunity to get third. Last season was finishing third, getting group stage was great. I want that again. But tomorrow is a huge, huge game. If we lose that, I might start panicking a bit.
Barry Robson says, are you looking forward to the game at the weekend? He then answered by saying, it's a really difficult game. It's a difficult challenge against Hearts tomorrow. As I said, it's 100% focus on trying to get all the fans back behind us, because they have been outstanding. We saw them at Tynecastle early on in the season. They have been so good. I hope to see them in huge numbers tomorrow supporting us. I know Hearts are so good. The allocation, it will be a great atmosphere, but Aberdeen fans will need to get right behind the team. I remember playing in his team, meaning Robin Nielsen's team, so basically what I can see here, Graham, is it's going to be a sellout tomorrow, because Aberdeen will turn up in big numbers. I know when I was at the Hearts Celtic game last weekend, they were advertising tickets, but they were saying that there was a few tickets left. But you'll be happy to know, Graham, that the away end will be sold out tomorrow. So it's going to be a decent game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not been embarrassed. It's the game of the day for me in the Premier League. I know Celtic play Hibs in that, but it's a big game for me tomorrow, this game. Aberdeen's home form is pretty impressive. I watched the last home game against Livingston. I didn't think they were great. They won the game 1-0, but it wasn't a great performance. But Barry Robson's done a good job. You know, they played against United away from home, and, you know, the first half they weren't great, but they won the game 3-1. Their home form is very good. So I could imagine that tomorrow will be a really big occasion. Aberdeen at home have a really good crowd, and I'm delighted that Hearts have sold their full attendance for tomorrow. It's going to be a great away support tomorrow. They'll be leaving early, buses and cars and stuff. It'll be great. I just hope that they come back with the right result, because it's honestly, tomorrow's a massive, massive game. Because after that, we play Kilmarnock away. We've then got St Mirren at home. We play Hibs away, and we've got Ross County at home before the split. So we've got big, big games to come. We need to be winning these games. No disrespect to Aberdeen, but we need to be winning these games. You know, it's not Celtic or Rangers, it's Aberdeen. We have to be winning these games. Our away form's got to change. Now, Robbie has now this season won at Easter Road for the first time. He's won at McDermott Park for the first time. I'm hoping that tomorrow he wins at Pittodrie. But it is going to be a very hard game, and we have to keep Duke quiet. He's the biggest threat for me. And we can't afford to make mistakes that we did last week against Celtic. We can't have Kyle Rolls trying to press on halfway. We can't be doing that. Honestly, it's such a big game tomorrow. This is a game I think we have to win. And Darren Ross said, you could argue that Barry Mackay does not suit our formation. Definitely is more suited to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. I mean, I think 4-2-3-1 suits us better. I said 3 at the back doesn't suit us because we get cut open too many times. Barry Mackay is one of these guys that You know, when you've got like a real talent, somebody that can kind of, you might go missing for 8 to 9 minutes, but it could be just a pass or it could be just a goal. Barry Mackay can do that. But see, when he doesn't do that, he's doing nothing. How he lasted as long as he did against Celtic last week, I've got no idea, because he was awful. And in these big games, he's got to turn up. And tomorrow's a big game. If Barry Mackay plays tomorrow, and he probably will, because Robin Nielsen loves him, if he plays tomorrow, he's got to perform. They all do. Again, for me, team news-wise, I don't think for me, and I don't know if Darren and Dean, if he's still watching this, would agree with this, but for me, wouldn't start Stephen Kingsley tomorrow. I'm playing Alec Cochrane. Alec Cochrane's been far better than Kingsley for me. I think Orestes Soglu's done okay recently, but I don't know if he's a starter for me tomorrow. George Grant, I think, might start. So we've got options tomorrow, but the big one for me, if Shank comes back, he could be a massive difference for us tomorrow. 21 goals this season. He's been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I know that folk will say that aren't Hearts fans. Oh, he scored a lot of penalties, but his all-round game's been great. And if he plays tomorrow, we've got a big chance.
I know I said this to Dave a few weeks ago, Graham, but from an Aberdeen point of view, they're lying in fifth at the moment, right? And obviously, if the top six is tomorrow, they'll be in the top six. But if they get the top six, and there's a few games to go by way before the split. I think there's 2 games that after 3 games that after the international break. But do you think that if they make the top six, that will still be a disappointing season for them in terms of like they went out the 2 cup competitions very early?
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the fixtures after tomorrow. So after tomorrow, there are 4 games left. St Johnstone away, Kilmarnock at home, Ross County away, and they finish with a home game against Rangers. Now, if you look at the fact that Aberdeen's away form is very poor, away to St Johnstone and away to Ross County, 2 difficult games. The home games are Kilmarnock and Rangers. You'd imagine them beat Kilmarnock, but that Rangers game, they've already lost to Rangers this season at home. Massive games. I think if Aberdeen don't make the top 6, it would be a huge, huge blow. And for me, and I don't know if Dave's watching this or any Aberdeen fans are watching this, for me, a lot of the blame has got to fall on Dave Cormack. He appointed Stephen Glass, that failed. He appointed Jim Goodwin, that failed. He's now put Barry Robson in charge, so we don't know if he's getting the job or not. It's been one failure after another. Now, I said weeks ago, he has to get this next appointment right, but if they don't finish in the top 6, it's Dave Cormack's fault for me. He's the one to blame for that.
And that's been 2 seasons in a row, Graham, that Aberdeen's not made the top 6. But you're right in saying that. Well, first of all, we need to say, hope you get well, Dave Cormack, because the last time we heard he was going for an operation. So hopefully Harry's back and stuff like that, because we don't like people going out of the game for serious operations. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I think I've said that before, because you can't blame the managers for getting the job. You can only blame Dave Cormack for coming in and appointing these managers. So do you think that Aberdeen fans, and they're very passionate up there, Graham, as you know, but do you think there's only one managerial appointment, and if that doesn't work, will they be stamping their feet and they'll be saying, we want Dave Cormack to go?
Potentially. I mean, I'm looking at the league table. They are sitting 5th, but they're only a point ahead of St Mirren, and they're only 2 points ahead of Livingston in 7th. They could easily drop out the top 6, but they appointed Stephen Glass, and it was an inexperienced appointment. Hearts did the same thing with Ian Cathro. Sometimes these things can work, sometimes they don't, and that failed. And I felt sorry for Glass, because he's a decent guy, but unfortunately, his reputation was shattered. Boom, boom. They then appointed Goodwin, and again, I thought it was the right appointment at the time, but you had that catastrophic run of results where they got beat 5-0 by Hearts, lost to Darvel, and then got beat 6-0 by Hibs in the El Sakio. So it was just one failure after another, and the players to me just didn't look invested in Jim Goodwin. You know, I go back to that Hibs game. they must have known before that game that Jim Goodwin was in trouble. You know, they've just been beaten by Hearts, they've been beaten by Darvel, and you think, right, we need to go out here and show something. To get beat 6-0 was horrendous. And a lot of those, I mean, again, I say this quite a lot as well. Managers always get the sack when things don't go wrong. Players don't get the sack. It's the players on the pitch that have got to do more. You've got experienced guys like Graham Shinney. I mean, is he not getting into that dressing room saying, well, we need to do better than this? We have to be better than this. Now, Barry Robson seems to be getting a tune out of them. How long that lasts, I don't know. But the players are going to take a look at themselves and say, could we have done more? And I think if you're Jim Goodwin and Stephen Glass and you're looking at that team just now, you're thinking, well, why are these players working harder for Barry Robson than they were under me? I mean, that doesn't show them in a great light.
Yeah, no, exactly. And let's move on now to speak about Celtic and Hibs tomorrow. We'll get to Celtic in a minute, but Lee Johnson, you mentioned that the famous game. No, I'm not talking about Barcelona or Real Madrid. I'm talking about Hibs and Aberdeen, El Saco the other week, and Lee Johnson survived. Graham, I don't know what he did or put in his team's cup of tea or whatever, but he's actually turned that dressing room right round.
I mean, he's managed to make Elo Yuan look like a footballer because, see, previously I thought Yuan was kind of all pace and nothing else, but he's now added goals to his game. Elo Yuan's been probably his best player for the last few weeks. He looks a real threat now. He'll be a massive threat to Celtic, and I don't want to say I'm worried about Hibs, but I am worried about Hibs because they're only 5 points behind us now. But the fact that they play Celtic tomorrow helps us because they're not going to go to Celtic Park and win. I've said that they probably will, but there should be no chance that they go to Celtic Park and win. So that keeps them a little bit off our tail. But yeah, the turnaround in Lee Johnson has been unbelievable. The fact that they've, Ryan Porteous is gone. They're still without Martin Boyle. Kevin Nisbet's been a bit up and down recently with injuries and stuff. He's done a very, very good job. And I hate saying that as a Hearts fan, but I can't be biased. I've always said on the show, I'll never be biased. I'll try and be balanced as much as I can. And he has done a very good job. He's turned around a team that looked like when they lost two games to Hearts in successive weeks, it looked like he could be out the door. That Aberdeen game seems to have changed something, though. Not just the win. If they'd won it 1-0 or 2-0, then fine. But the fact they won it 6-0 was a huge bonus for them. And he's managed to turn it around. Even Will Fish looks like a player now. He doesn't look like a fish out of water anymore. So yeah, he has turned it around massively, which is fair play to Lee Johnson, to be fair.
It was Jamie McAllister. I was speaking to Graham ahead of the game, and he says that the guys have worked so hard over the past week because, like, obviously we haven't had a game last week. Now we're looking forward to the game tomorrow. Celtic have quality all over the park, but we know that the challenge will be a different challenge. Going up against Celtic. Graham, the last game Celtic Hibs went to Parkhead, I think Celtic won, what was it, 6-0, 7-0 early in the season?
6-1.
6-1, yeah. And then you're thinking, well, you fear for Hibs this season, and then Celtic went to Easter Road at Christmas, and I think they won that 2-1, and that was a good game. So do you think it'll be a different game tomorrow?
Nope, I think Celtic won about 8-0. But actually, if you remember that 6-1 game as well, it was the comments that Lee Johnson made after the game, where he said that the Hibs players should be going to the Celtic dressing room and asking what they do. I mean, that was mental. I never thought to the manager saying that. That didn't go down well with all the Hibs fans. You know, why are you saying that kind of thing? And sometimes when Lee Johnson speaks, you do kind of think, engage your brain first, Lee, because you're talking nonsense. But yeah, I don't see anything different tomorrow. I think Celtic at the moment are just on which we'll get to shortly. Celtic are a completely different level, not just to Rangers, but to everybody else. Celtic have got an incredible squad. They've got an amount of the quality they've got on their bench. You know, last week, I said at the time, their subs made a massive difference, but Hearts subs just couldn't. Celtic have got so much quality through that side, and Kyogo, Aaron Moy, who I think's been exceptional, Carter Vickers at the back. They've just got so much quality through that squad, and I use this word a lot, relentless. And I expect Celtic to do the same thing tomorrow as they march towards the title and potential that treble. They've just got a squad that is ridiculous, and I don't see any way that Hibs go there tomorrow and get anything apart from another hammering, to be honest.
You mentioned Celtic. Let's speak about Celtic now. Before we get into talking about Celtic, Andy Postecoglou was saying today that a bit of a blow for Celtic tomorrow. Alan Moy is out the team tomorrow, and Timo Owase is out the team. But Dyson Maeda and Scarfelt is back in the squad. He then went on to say it will be a good challenge for us. There is a good run. The Hibs is in a good run of form, and obviously I said to early on, Graham, about Greg Taylor. I said, not Greg Taylor's fit, and he'll be in the squad tomorrow. So I don't know what's going on between Stevie Clark and Celtic there or whatever. Anyway, that for next week's show. Yeah, Celtic, very impressed. I was very impressed with them last week at Tynecastle, Graham, because it's always a kind of very difficult ground to go to, as you know, because Hearts beat Celtic and Postecoglou's first game last season. But I know we spoke about this on the show last week, but I don't want to say Celtic found it easy on the game or on the day,
but they did. But they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, okay.
No, I mean, they are a ridiculous squad. They really are. I mean, they never seem to stop going forward. It's like they don't take the foot off the accelerator. They keep going, and that's what I wish that Hearts would do. That's what I wish that Hearts were like, but it is. We'll get to that very shortly, but it is very difficult to do that. And again, last week, you could tell when you play Celtic, you need a lot of things to go for you. You need to be on your game. You need to start well. You need the referees on your side. You need everything to go again. You need everything to go for you. But last week, Celtic, you can see right for the start, were up for it. Now, I don't know. The game before that at Celtic Park, they weren't great, but they beat Hearts 3-1. And I don't know if Postecoglou's got into them in that game and said, you need to be better than that. And they were. They were relentless against Hearts. 35 seconds in, and Hatate's got a shot as Ander Clark, and that set the tone for the game. Celtic were up for it. I don't think we were up for it. It's just that Celtic were just that good, and we really couldn't get near them. And that's a problem that I think Scottish football's got. We can't get near them, which we'll get to very shortly. But Celtic are just in a completely different league to everyone else. They really are. And as I say, you look at the squad. Celtic could make easily tomorrow. I don't think they will, but Celtic could make 6 changes tomorrow, and not one of those changes would affect them in any way. They would still be really strong. You could take Kyogo out, you could take Jota out, you could take Moy out, and you can put Owen, you could put Abada in, you could put Turnbull in, and it wouldn't make any difference. They will still be strong. It is very, very hard to compete against the Celtic side.
Well, there's that Alan Moy's out tomorrow, but I mean, he's been a big player for Celtic this season, especially when this came up, coming back out for the World Cup. But, I mean, you'll not know the difference again because the Celtic are set like robots at the moment, because as somebody goes out, somebody comes in and does the exact same job. It's like a conveyor belt as well.
I think that just goes to show, and again, I said this weeks ago, you can get recruitment wrong. It is such a big thing, recruitment. Postecoglou's got pretty much every signing right. Maybe Idaguchi is the one that really hasn't really worked because he's not really played. But he's got every signing right. He seems to get the best out of that squad as well. And even players that we thought might leave early in the season, i.e. Anthony Ralston, Greg Taylor, whenever they play, they make a difference. I think Ralston started the season really well this season as well. But yeah, I mean, they just have such a massive, massive squad. And as I said last week, you look at that Celtic bench, and I thought every single one of those Celtic players on that bench would get in the Hearts team. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they don't take the pressure off. Like, even last week at 2-0 up, they could have gone, do you know what? this game's done. We've got other games to come. Let's just sit back. But they didn't. They kept going forward. They could have easily won that game by more, but for Xander Clark. It's just a ridiculously good Celtic squad. And I mean, I've been a football fan for a long, long time. And I've seen a lot of strong Celtic squads. I mean, I don't know. You're a Celtic fan. You might know this more than I do. But, I mean, where does this rank in terms of one of the best Celtic squads you've seen?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if it's really up there with Martin O'Neill's team yet. But what I would caveat by saying that they would have to do something in Europe, because I think like Postecoglou would have to do would want to get into the last 16 of the Champions League, or the last 32 of the Europa Cup. That would be progress. And the Postecoglou. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, I would say that they're up there in the par with Martin O'Neill's team, maybe Brendan Rodgers' team to a certain extent. The only difference with Rodgers' team is Celtic went invincible. I mean, I think, and this is a big if, Graham, but I think if Celtic didn't get beat off at St Mirren this season, I think Celtic could have went on another invincible season in the league.
Yeah, there's every chance. I mean, they can still finish the season very strongly, which I think they will. At the moment, I don't see anybody really stopping Celtic, and that's a big problem with Scottish football. There's nobody can get near them. It's the same. I mean, Rangers aren't a particularly great side, but again, nobody can seem to get near Rangers either, which is disappointing. So, I mean, Celtic are just on a different level. They are. I said this on Twitter last week after the game. They are miles ahead of Hearts and everyone else, and it's just the Scottish Premier League is probably. I mean, again, I've watched it for a long time. It's probably the least competitive I've seen it for a long, long time. And again, I know we'll get to this, but that's going to change because it makes a mockery of the league. I mean, Hearts are sitting third in the league, but we are 34 points behind Celtic, and we're 25 points behind Rangers. We are closer to Dundee United at the bottom than we are at the top two. That's not good. Yeah. That is not healthy for the Scottish game. There's got to be something done to make it more competitive. I don't know what. I have talked about League Reconstruction earlier on. I think that needs to happen. They should have done this years ago, but something needs to be done because it's ridiculous. I don't think there'll ever be. I mean, you look at Leicester years ago that won the Premier League. No one thought they would do that, but they had a lot of things for them that season. They had no injuries. They had Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea on a massive decline. That doesn't happen in Scotland. You've only got two teams that we've had 40 years of this, where it's always Celtic and Rangers, Rangers and Celtic, Celtic and Rangers. The league is not competitive. And that's why I've said for a while, and I've seen a few pundits and the ex-players of this as well, see if Rangers and Celtic left the league, I wouldn't be that bothered. I think the Scottish League would flourish. You need to have a bigger, more competitive league because it's getting out to a stage that it's boring. Celtic go out every week, win 3 or 4-0. You're beating the team that are third in the league. You mentioned it there. Celtic against Hearts at Tynecastle should have been a really hard game for Celtic, and it wasn't. It was a cakewalk. Hibs against Rangers a couple of weeks ago in the league at Easter Road. That should have been a hard game for Rangers. They won 4-1. It's too easy. And I don't know, I mean, Celtic fans might love this, but it can't be great when you go into every game knowing you're going to win. It must be boring at some point knowing you're going to win every week.
Well, come back and speak about the League Reconstruction before the end of the show, but I just wanted to look forward to the rest of the games and talk about the rugby very quickly before we come back to that. So that's Celtic and Hibs tomorrow. Dundee United against Mirren, Graham.
I don't know what to make of this game.
It's a Jim Goodwin derby again.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this game. And again, I thought against Aberdeen in that first half, United were excellent. Just couldn't score. There was something about them in that first half. They looked decent. They just weren't clinical. And tomorrow, I mean, how ironic is that I think his last 2 games, Jim Goodwin's played against Aberdeen, the club that he's just left, and St Mirren, the club that he left a while ago. So you gotta get that in football. But it's a huge game. United, for me at the moment, I've already said this weeks ago, I think they're going to go down. I just think it's a very difficult job. I mean, if Jim Goodwin keeps them up, kudos to him. But it's a massive, massive rebuild they need in the summer. Whether he'll be there, I don't know. It might be the case that if they get relegated, he leaves. But tomorrow's a huge, huge game. You know, they need the fans behind them. They need a win tomorrow. If they win tomorrow, I think they climb. They would be level with Kilmarnock and Ross Kent, depending on the results tomorrow. But St Mirren, they've had a good season. You know, if St Mirren win tomorrow, depending on the results, if it goes their way, they could jump to 4th tomorrow, which would be incredible. What a season they've had under Robertson. I mean, I didn't think that at the start of the season. So tomorrow's a massive game for both teams. But there were spells in that Aberdeen game. I thought Jim Goodwin looked like he had the sign of a decent side there, but defensively they're awful. I mean, I spoke about this weeks ago. Ryan Edwards is dreadful as a captain and as a defender. He's awful. And if United have got any chance to stay up, they have to sort that. They have to sort that defence because it's not good enough.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so that's the game tomorrow. Another good game, you would say, Graham, as well. Obviously, Dundee United's get it for points, and St Mirren's on a good run of form, so another good game. What about another game tomorrow? Kilmarnock against Johnson, Graham?
Yeah, again, I think I've made my feelings known on this. I think Kilmarnock will be in that playoff place. I just don't see enough in them. I think they're a very, very poor side. I don't think Derek McInnes has improved them at all. And again, it kind of brings a question, and I don't know if any Aberdeen fans are watching this, but is Derek McInnes as good a manager as folk make out he is? I'm not sure. He's won one League Cup. He's won one League Cup back in 2014 on penalties for Aberdeen. Is he that good a manager? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. He's done a decent job at Aberdeen, but not particularly over impressive. And I think at Kilmarnock,
I think that's why I say to you, Graham, that Kilmarnock was too fast to offer him a 4-year deal.
I mean, I think they were. I mean, they played in the Scottish Cup and they were dreadful. They got beat quite comfortably and deserved to get beat as well. I know they have a decent run in the cups. You know, they beat Hearts in the League Cup and they got beat in the semi-finals. They did well, but in the league they've been awful. They just look I've said this before as well. They don't have enough up front. They are very poor up front. The only thing for me they've got is Daniel Armstrong. He's been excellent. He's been a shining light for Kilmarnock. But apart from that, you know, Christian Deutsch, has he been great? No. Vassell has been okay in spells, but he needs service, which he hasn't really got a lot of because there's not a lot of creativity in that Kilmarnock side. I think Jordan Jones has been okay, but they can't keep him fit. I think Kilmarnock they just look a very poor side for me. And I think they will be in that playoff place. In terms of St Johnstone, again, very up and down. They've had a kind of up and down season. I think Davis has done a decent job. They are sitting 8th, which is probably, I don't know if that's better than what St Johnstone fans might have thought. I don't know. But I think St Johnstone win tomorrow, just because I don't see enough on that Kilmarnock side. And again, I mean, I know that contracts can be ripped up, but if Kilmarnock go down, is Derek McInnes really going to want to manage in the Championship? I don't think so.
No, I don't think. I don't know what Kilmarnock was thinking of them actually, because they gave him the new contract early on in the season. Surely they could have waited until the new year and they would speak about it then. But I mean, maybe, it was awful early.
I do not understand what Kilmarnock board saw in Derek McInnes that thought, do you know what, we'll give him this new contract. They should have done is say, right, what we'll do is we'll give you a contract till the end of the season. If we stay up, then we'll look and extend your contract. If we go down, then you can leave. That's what they should have done. But like you're right, they were far too hasty to give him a new contract. And to be honest, I don't think even Kilmarnock, even the most diehard Kilmarnock fan, would want Derek McInnes to stay if they go down.
Yeah, no, exactly. Derek McInnes was speaking to Kilmarnock TV, and he said that he was speaking about the Inverness game last week. He said that we need to now just focus on our league business after the exit of the Scottish Cup, because we weren't good enough. He then goes on to say it's a big game tomorrow, and we need to get back to winning ways, and it's all about the next 10 games.
Yeah,
I mean, they've got Celtic coming up as well, Graham, after the international break. That's the first game after the break.
They're not winning that. I mean, I suppose the only good thing for Kilmarnock will probably be that they'll be playing teams in the bottom six, so they might have a chance to stay up. But I just think I look at that Kilmarnock side, and I don't see enough quality in there. I really don't.
Even when I know we spoke about this a lot, Grim. Even when Kyle Rafferty was still at Kilmarnock, he wasn't offering a lot. All right, he was scoring goals every second week, every third week. Or maybe that's a bit unfair of me saying that, but he's not like a goal presence, you would say.
No, I mean, I think Lafferty did offer something, and I think I said this last week, I was genuinely surprised that they let him go when they did. And I mean, I don't know if the whole thing about the whole 10-game ban I think he had maybe had an effect in that, I don't know. But yeah, they just don't, for me, look like they've got enough quality in that squad. United don't either. I think United are going to go down because I just don't think they've got enough. But I think Kilmarnock, for me, they just look a very poor side. They just look, I think, as I said earlier, I think Danny Armstrong's been a shining light, but I think he will probably leave if they go down. There'll be a few players in that squad might leave. So that's another rebuild. I just think giving Derek McInnes that contract when they did was a very strange decision, and it might backfire because if they do go down, will Kilmarnock board then think, do you know what, we got that wrong?
Oh, we'll see what happens. The last game tomorrow is Livingston against Ross County. David Martindale was speaking yesterday. He said we have got a big opportunity to pick up 3 points tomorrow, and Glenn, it will give us a good opportunity to get us in the top 6 of the table. We are looking for a right back, and we have a long list of candidates of this season. Now, Graham, I was listening to David Martindale's press conferences. I've been watching them since the beginning of the season, and I'm quite impressed with him, the way that he speaks. But if I was I don't know how I would feel about him saying this, because he's basically saying about Nicky Devlin maybe moving on. Now, Livingston's got this. Livingston's a club where they buy players, they mold them into a good player, a decent player, and then move them on. And when you hear Derek McInnes speaking about, when you hear David Martindale speaking about that, you know, that's a Livingston philosophy. But I mean, surely there's a time, if you're a Livingston fan, you would get frustrated for players to come to score goals and then next season move away. Now I get it, right? I get that's what Livingston's all about. But I mean, if I was a Livy fan or you were a Livy fan, would you not be a bit kind of disappointed about the kind of like structure of the football team? Or am I just being a bit harsh here?
No, maybe I think Nicky Devlin's a good player. I've said numerous times, I think Livingston are a very good club. I think they're very well run. They've had maybe the last few weeks they've not been great. They've kind of fallen off a little bit. They are sitting 7th when they were sitting, I think, maybe 4th a few weeks ago. They are in a bit of a rut just now. I've said before, I'm a massive fan of David Martindale. I think he's a very good manager, but they just seem to have fallen a little bit, maybe a little bit stagnated recently. I don't know why that is. I think Joe Nubley, again, has been a massive threat for them this season, but he's not scored enough goals. Livingston are one of these sides that you know what you're going to get with them. They're going to be well organised, they're going to be in your face, they're going to make it difficult for you. I don't think they've done that recently. I think defensively they've been very poor. Tomorrow's, again, I keep saying this about massive games, but tomorrow's a huge, huge game for both these teams. Ross Kent as well have had a kind of decent season. I think Malky Mackay's done an okay job. Again, I think the signing of Eamon Brophy has been inspired. Simon Murray has been a decent signing. But again, if Ross Kent win tomorrow, I mean, I think they're 6 points off Motherwell in ninth. They won't move anywhere else, but it's a massive, massive game. These games before the split are so, so important. You don't want to get dragged into a relegation position. You really don't. So it's a big, big game. And I think Livingston will have designs on that top six. They are, what? Let me just check. They are only a point off top six. If Livingston finish top six, I think that'll be a good season for David Martindale. But tomorrow is a huge, huge game.
Before we go on to Graham's favourite subject, the League Reconstruction, let's change tack ever so slightly, Graham, and speak about the game tomorrow in Murrayfield. It's a 12:30 kickoff tomorrow between Scotland and Italy. Now, I don't know about you, but the bubble was kind of burst last week when because they had to beat Ireland for any chance of winning the Six Nations. It's been a decent campaign for Scotland. They're lying third in the league table over the Six Nations standard. But as for Italy, Graham, Italy is their kind of new country to the game. Over the past couple of years, they've been actually struggling to get a point, you would say, maybe, or to win the game. But like I saw them, what was it, last week against Ireland, and 2 weeks ago against Ireland, and Ireland won either in the end up. But if you look back to the first half, Italy, Ireland was in the game.
Yeah, just looking at the comments here from the Scotland captain, Jamie Ritchie, who believes that potentially the best Italy team that Scotland has ever played stands between Scotland and a huge positive from finishing third. Jamie Ritchie said that he believes that Scotland are yet to put together a complete 80-minute performance. He said that to secure third place would be a positive. To achieve that, Scotland must overcome an Italy side who have shown improvement this season, despite again being bottom of the table without a win. Yeah, it's a big, big game for Scotland tomorrow. I think I said weeks ago, I was hugely positive that Scotland could win the Six Nations. We had such a great start, beating England, beating Wales, and I thought, you know what, we've got a chance here. The France game was a massive blow. Being 19-0 down, and we did come back, but a massive blow. And then last week, another huge, huge blow. I thought at one point Scotland might win that game, but we were live on air, and Ireland just ran out comfortable winners. It's been a disappointment, but do you know what? If Scotland finished third, I think that's progression for Gregor Townsend. That would be a great result. But tomorrow is a big, big game. Jamie Ritchie says it there that Italy have improved. Maybe not the results to show for that, but they have improved. So tomorrow's a massive game. You want to round off the Six Nations with a comfortable win. Maybe isn't the right word, but a win. Send the Scotland fans away happy. Send them away thinking, you know what? We've made progression. We can go into the World Cup with a bit of positivity, because it's not been a failure. Finishing third against, you're behind the top two teams of the world in France and Italy. Finishing third is not bad. That would be a decent achievement, I think.
Yeah, no, exactly. And ice hockey this weekend, Glasgow Clan is away to the Flames, whoever they are. Kick off 6 o'clock, or ice off, or whatever, or puck off, or whatever. I said puck off, Graham. I never said that. Right, okay. Okay, so let's go back to reconstruction, Graham. It's kind of raised its ugly head again, and I think it's kind of came to the fore because Celtic. Well, let's face it, Celtic and Rangers, more so Celtic, is too good for the league this season. But I think you made a good comment early on about if you look at the league table, there's a big difference between Celtic and Rangers, but then a massive difference between Celtic and Hearts, who is lying third in the league. So yeah, I'm not so sure about. Obviously, it will drive more sponsors and more like TV deals to the league. I think it would be a good idea because in Scotland, before the top six and the bottom six we played 4 times every season each other, and it's starting to get a bit stale and boring. And then when they, yeah, so what's your kind of thoughts on this, Grim?
It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I just mentioned it earlier on, the fact that you've got Celtic and Rangers go to the two Edinburgh teams who should be up there challenging, and they've basically both hammered both of us. It is getting to that stage now where it is very, very boring. It is getting predictable. Celtic going to every game now, knowing they're going to win by 3 or 4. I mean, you look at the St Mirren game a few weeks ago. That could have been a hard game. We know what happened a few weeks, like at the start of the season where St Mirren won 2-0. Charles Dunn gets sent off and Celtic score 5. It is getting to that stage now that it is getting ridiculous. I've just spoke about the stats earlier on. That Hearts are 34 points behind Celtic. We are third. The third best team in Scotland is 34 points behind the first team. That's not good. That's not good enough. Now, I don't know that. Obviously, Celtic and Rangers have got finances. They've had Champions League football. They have the money. They have the resources. They have the fan base. They have the stadium. They have the infrastructure. They've got everything. We don't have that. Hibs don't have that. St Mirren don't have that. Motherwell have that. I've probably followed Hearts since I was about 9. Probably about 1988, 89, I followed Hearts. And there has been times where us and Aberdeen and Hibs have been up there challenging. I think maybe the 1998 Hearts split the Old Firm. 2006 Hearts split the Old Firm. But it doesn't happen often enough. And something needs to change because it is getting now to a stage where if you're an outsider looking in, if you're like, say, from England and you don't watch Scottish football, you think, do you know what, I'm going to have a look at the league table, see what the league table is like. And you're seeing, oh, wow, Celtic are 34 points ahead of the third. That can't be good. It's not a great look. It's a ridiculous look. And I think I said this a while ago. When we had COVID and the league got stopped, now I didn't have a problem with Celtic winning the league. And I didn't have a problem with other teams winning the championships. What they should have done, and what the right thing for me would have been, is do not relegate anybody. What we'll do is we will reconstruct the league. We'll have an 18-team league, and we'll make it more competitive. They never did that. What they did was they decided that everybody should vote on it. Now, of course, everybody's going to be self-obsessed. Everyone's going to vote for their own rights. The SPL should have said, or the SFA should have said, you know what? This is unprecedented. We're going to make the decision that we are going to say no relegation. We're going to extend the league, 18-team league in the big league, bring up these teams that you've not been in the league for a while, and make it more competitive. Because honestly, now, and I think as well, I might be right in this, Celtic and Rangers will play each other 6 times this season because they played 4 in the league and they'll have the 2 cup games as well. That's pathetic. You shouldn't be playing the same team 6 in a season. I like how they do it in the English Premiership, where teams only play each other once a season, home and away. That should be the right thing to do. Playing everybody 4 or 5, 6 times a season is not good. And there has to be something, I think as well, you've got to split the finances fairly with everyone else because it's making a mockery of the league. It's getting ridiculous. I don't think in my lifetime, and listen, I'm fine with that. I've had it for a long time. I don't think in my lifetime I will ever see Hearts win the league. Hibs win the league. I hope I don't see Hibs winning the league. I might kill myself if that happens. But I don't think I will ever see anybody winning the league apart from the Old Firm, and that is not good. Something's got to change.
I know that Celtic and Rangers, the financial side, and obviously we could be on here speaking about the financial side for till Monday, a week on Monday, Graham. But like leaving that aside, right? But looking at all the other teams, including Hearts and Hibs, have they not got anybody coming up from the youth ranks to break into the team? And do you not think that it falls down a wee bit? Because if you had a bit of, I mean, I don't know anything about Hearts or Hibs or whoever's youth academy, but like, if you had somebody coming up, would you say that you would have not a better chance, but you would have a wee bit of a chance? I know the goal will be there, but like, you know.
I think we have had players in the past that I mentioned his name earlier on. Harry Cochrane, I thought could have been a really good player, but he never got played. And I think that is I'm just trying to find an article that I read a few days ago and I can't find it now. There was something that talked about the youth players that had played this season for every team, and I now can't find it. I don't know what I've done with it. But there was a thing that came out about the lack of youth players that had played this season. And I think Hearts had maybe one, Celtic had none. I think that's been a massive issue as well. And this isn't just Robin Nielsen, this is Craig Levein as well. We don't seem to produce young players that come in that first team. And it's been happening for a while. We've got a player in the B team just now called Bobby McCluckey, who's a very good player. But again, he won't get in the first team. And we, last week, I actually thought this last week as well, we only named 7 subs last week. Now, I don't know why we just didn't have a couple of young players on the bench, even for experience, but we didn't do that. And that's something that has annoyed me for a while. We had like guys like Connor Smith, who I'm a massive fan of. And I would rather see some of the younger players play than some of the first team players that I don't think are good enough. I.e., and I don't want to pick on them, but I'm going to, Orestes Kiermoutsoglu, I don't think it's good enough. I would rather see a guy like Finn. For me, a lot of the thing is that a lot of these teams are scared to play young players because of the money that's involved in like finishing third or finishing fourth, or even if the bottom of the league. It's the thought of getting relegated, the money that's involved in that. I think teams are scared to play young players, and that for me is wrong.
Yeah, gives us no tie into what we were saying earlier on, Graham, about Ben Doak. I mean, okay, you can argue the case that he was at Celtic, but I think like his agent or somebody got onto his ears and bent his ear about, oh, by the way, if you go down the road, you'll get more money. So if that's Ben Doak, doing it at Celtic, I'm not saying that it would hold a place again in the team, but what other chance of other players has got breaking through at Hearts and Hibs and St Johnstone? Because, as I say, money talks.
It doesn't, and that's wrong. I mean, again, I think on one of the podcasts I was on last week, on one of the podcasts I was on last week, I mentioned this. I am probably about the late 90s, I think. Hearts played Hibs at Easter Road. Now, I, at that time, wasn't allowed to go to Easter Road because I was still quite young. But what I did was...
21?
I know. Myself and my brother, I think, at the time, we went to Tynecastle to watch the Reserves League game between Hearts and Hibs.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good crowd. What you would have is players that weren't in the squad, plus young players, and it made for a really good game. And you know, you had the Hibs Hearts game in the league, and you had the Hearts Hibs reserve game on at the same time, and it was great. You got a good atmosphere, and it gave you a chance to see these kind of young players coming through. You don't get that now. You've got the B teams, which I don't think that's a good idea anyway. I would rather see young players coming in and getting a chance in the first team, but it is all about money. People don't want to give these young players a chance. You look at Hamilton years and years ago. They brought through James McCarthy and James MacArthur. These guys went on to have great careers. Some of the teams in the lower leagues, they do produce young players and they play them. But in the Premier League, you don't get that because I think teams are scared to play them. And that's wrong. I think it was, I don't know if it was Alex Ferguson or I don't know who it was that said it. But the phrase that I always think about is if they're good enough, they're old enough. If you've got a good young player in there, then play them. Give them a chance. And I'll go back to Hearts because it's my club. Connor Smith I love Connor Smith. I've seen this boy play numerous times. He's got so much potential. He played at Celtic Park, I think it was last season, and he was very impressive. He didn't shirk his responsibility. He tried to get on the ball and make things happen. But then we let him go on loan to Hamilton. I mean, why do that? Let these guys play, give them a chance, but it doesn't happen because teams are too scared that if they play the young players, they'll make mistakes. Do you know what? That's what it's about. Let them play, let them make mistakes, then they learn. I just think it's such a... How are these young players going to come through if they don't get game time? It's ridiculous.
But it's interesting, like, it's interesting that we're talking about this, right? But if you take Celtic and Rangers out of the league, we wouldn't be speaking about this issue, Glenn.
No, we wouldn't. And this is why I think, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, but I heard an ex-pundit or an ex-footballer and player say a couple of days ago that if Celtic and Rangers left the league would flourish. And I agree with that. Now, I know that the likes of Sky and that only show these live games because it's Celtic and Rangers. I get that. But I think, for me, if I'm a Hearts fan, well, I am a Hearts fan. I must say, if I'm a Hearts fan, I'm a Hearts fan. But if I know that Celtic and Rangers aren't in the league, and I know that Hearts have got a chance to win the league, Hibs could win the league. Hopefully not. Aberdeen could win the league. Motherwell could win the league. St Mirren could win the league. If you extend the league to 18 or 20, whatever you want, you've then got a league that would easily flourish because you've got every team would be on the level playing field. Every team could win the league. Everybody could beat everyone else. And I think it would be great for the league. I really do. Some folk might say, oh, but if you win the league, it's tarnished because Celtic and Rangers aren't in it. But right now, the way it is, it's horrendous. I mean, I've said this before, and I've been very vocal on this, and I'm quite happy to admit this. I really hate playing Celtic and Rangers, especially in Glasgow, because I know what's going to happen. I know that we're going to get beat. I would rather say to the SFA, you know what? We'll take the 3 point, we'll take the defeat. Just give us a 3-0 defeat so we don't have to go, because it's pointless. Because they get beat 5 or 6-0 or even, you know, I know we got beat 3-1 last week, but it's pointless. You go through to Glasgow knowing you're going to get beat. Even last week, I saw a lot of Hearts fans say, you know, we've got a chance at Tynecastle against Celtic. No, we don't. We were never going to get a chance against Celtic because Celtic are just far too strong. That Celtic squad is, I mentioned this as well, it's ridiculous. They've got so much quality. We couldn't even fill the bench last week. I think even if we've got our full strength team out last week, we probably still get beat. Maybe it's more of a decent game, I don't know. But we still get beat. And it's just, I look at it now and I think Celtic Hibs tomorrow, that should be a decent game. It won't be, because Celtic will be 4-0 up by half-time. That's not a great look for Scottish football. It's not a great look for any league when teams are hammering each other 5 or 6-0 every week. I mean, tomorrow, Motherwell Rangers could be a tight game. It could be. But there's every chance that Rangers could win that 3 or 4-0. So there needs to be something done to make the league more competitive. And League Reconstruction, I think, would be helpful. But I just don't think Rangers and Celtic... I mean, how long ago was it? I don't even know. But Celtic and Rangers said themselves that they wanted to leave the league. And it should have happened then. We should have said, you know what, you want to go? Go. That's fine. But I don't think the SFL would ever go for it. But they need to do something different, because it is getting boring now. Every season you're knowing who's going to win the league, Celtic or Rangers. Next season, when the league's at scratch, I guarantee by the season starts in August, I guarantee by late September, Celtic and Rangers will be about 10 points ahead of everyone else. And that's not good. That's not a good look.
But I mean, to play devil's advocate for a minute, Graham, that's not when we're talking about the financials and all that. That's not Celtic and Rangers' fault. You would say that they've got the most money and the most, the most successful players in Scotland or whatever. That's I mean, if you look at every other league, maybe like in Spain or whatever, in different countries, I mean, I don't keep an eye on any other kind of country, but I mean, I think you'll come up against the same barriers as Scotland. Maybe not in maybe not in the points difference, but you'll come up against the same kind of thing. So I don't think this is purely down to Celtic and Rangers or Rangers or Celtic. I mean, I agree with you that they're too good. That they're like wee fishies in big fishies in a wee swimming bowl, or a wee fishing bowl. Sorry, but that's not like Celtic and Rangers' fault. That's just the way that it's panned out over the years.
No, I completely agree. It's not Celtic and Rangers' fault. They're run well. Rangers are run properly now, surprisingly, with their one title. But sorry, Rangers fans, if you want, no, I'm not. But yeah, I mean, it's not Celtic and Rangers' fault. Of course, it's not. Celtic can go out and spend, was it $4 million on Jota? Other teams in the league can't do that, and you do kind of look envious and think, I wish we could have had that. But it's just there needs to be something more done to make the league more competitive and be able to challenge. I mean, I say this every time, but I would love, I go into every season hoping that Hearts can split the Old Firm, knowing it's never going to happen, but hoping it will. There needs to be something better, something done to just make it more competitive, because it does get boring.
Well, I was about to say to you, Graham, sort of like cut across here there, but I was about to say to you, I mean, Hearts getting to Europe this season. Okay, we done the shows, and it was disappointing for a Scottish football point of view and the Hearts point of view as a Hearts fan, Graham. But I mean, at least they went into Europe, they competed. Okay, it wasn't maybe a level playing field, but
yeah, I mean, we're the only team outside the Old Firm actually playing group stage football, which is great, and hopefully that will happen again next season if we finish third, or if Aberdeen finish third, or Hibs finish third. Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, it does make a difference, because then I'm hoping if we use the money, I mean, we've got 15 million from the Foundation of Hearts, which is incredible. The amount of money that's been raised by that is unbelievable. Happy money that every month, and it's brilliant. Being fan owned, it's fantastic. It's the way to go. But if we spend that money wisely, then I mean, I don't know who we could sign in the summer, but what it would do is it would help us maybe not compete with Celtic and Rangers, but it help us move away from other teams if we can sign quality. But Celtic and Rangers can afford to spend 4 or 5 million on a player. We can't really do that. I think the most we spent on a player is 850,000 we signed on Mirsad Bisleja in 2000 and I can't remember the year, but it was a long time ago. But that was the most we spent on a player, and he was dreadful. But yeah, we need, if every team could get into European football regularly, then that might help with the finances. But it is competing with Celtic and Rangers is so hard. This isn't a Leicester. We can't do that. It's so hard. You've got to be consistent, and it is such a. The Scottish Premier League has been lambasted for a long time because all you've ever got is Celtic and Rangers win the league, and that will continue for as long as I'm alive. And I don't know what the answer is, but I would like to see things change and be more competitive. But I don't know what the answer is. I really wish I did, but I don't.
No, I mean, obviously, I've saw a lot of people on Twitter and social media the past couple of days actually, and yourself as well, and obviously, if Ross was on the show tonight, the Ross County fan, he might have said the same thing as you, and Connell, the Hibs fan as well, that we have from time to time. But again, it's not. I don't think it's Celtic and Rangers' fault, but I can see where you're coming from, because obviously when you go into the game, you're expecting to. If you get beat 2-0, that's a success, instead of getting beat 7-0, if you see what I mean. But, I mean, you don't want to get beat at all. But, yeah, it's a kind of interesting one, and like one that we should dedicate a whole show to. But about finances, the TV deal and all that, because it is a big kind of like subject. But I don't know how we can get round that one of like Scottish football.
Yeah, I mean 100%. I mean, again, it is a very difficult situation because Celtic and Rangers are, and I said on Twitter last week, miles ahead. Maybe tomorrow, Motherwell beat Rangers, Celtic lose to Hibs. I don't think that'll happen. But there needs to be, I just think, and yeah, you are right, and I do agree. It's not Celtic Rangers' fault, but I just wish that the league was more competitive because it does get. I mean, I actually do agree. I go into every Celtic Rangers game hoping we don't get hammered by 4 or 5. That's my main aim, and I don't want to think like that. I want to be positive, but I just can't, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks, Graham, for joining me tonight. We'll come back to this another team that was good. We'll be back on Sunday with the locker room. Thanks for all your comments tonight on YouTube and Facebook Live. And we'll speak to you again live on Sunday at 3 o'clock here on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live.